Some secrets are buried so deep they fester, waiting for the right moment to tear lives apart. In my case, the truth was hiding in the one place I never thought to look: the attic of the woman I considered my sister. She was the heart of our small town, always there with a smile and a helping hand. But one sleepless night revealed a darkness that changed everything I thought I knew. I'm Rachel Thompson, 38 years old, and this is the story of how my best friend's secret unraveled our quiet community, and how chasing the truth nearly destroyed me. 4 years ago, I moved to Willow Creek, a picturesque town in upstate New York, after losing my job in the city. I needed a fresh start, a place where life moved slower, and people still left their doors unlocked. Willow Creek was exactly that: charming Main Street, white, steepled churches, and neighbors who brought casseroles when you were sick. From the moment I arrived, Sarah Bennett welcomed me like family. She lived in a cozy Victorian house 2 doors down, with climbing roses and a wraparound porch. Sarah, a 40-year-old widow with no kids, ran the town's only bookstore, a quaint shop filled with the smell of old pages and fresh coffee. She was the kind of person who remembered everyone's birthday and organized fundraisers for the local animal shelter. When my car broke down during a snowstorm, Sarah drove through the blizzard to pick me up. When I struggled to pay rent, she slipped an envelope of cash under my door with a note that said, "Pay me back when you can." She's Willow Creek's guardian angel, my neighbor Tom said once, and I believed it. Sarah's my confidant, my late-night wine buddy, my safe haven. We'd spend hours on her porch, laughing over stories of her eccentric customers or my disastrous attempts at gardening. She was the sister I never had, but looking back, there were hints, tiny cracks in her perfect facade that I ignored, like how she never let anyone into her attic, claiming it was too cluttered for guests, or how she'd get quiet when certain topics came up, like her late husband Mark, who died in a car accident before I moved to town. I chalked it up to grief, but there was something in her eyes, a flicker of unease, that I couldn't quite place. Then came the night that turned my world upside down. It was a stormy Friday in June, around midnight. I couldn't sleep with the thunder rattling my windows, so I decided to drop off a book I'd borrowed from Sarah. Her house was dark, but her car was in the driveway, so I figured she was home. As I approached her porch, I heard it, a faint, rhythmic tapping coming from above, like someone pacing in her attic. I froze, clutching the book. The sound wasn't random. It had purpose, like footsteps or something being dragged. I knocked on her door, thinking maybe she was moving furniture, but no one answered. The tapping stopped abruptly, and the silence felt heavier than the storm. I tried to brush it off. Maybe it was the wind or a loose shutter, but as I walked back home, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Sarah had always been so open, so why was her attic off limits? And why was there noise up there in the middle of the night? The next morning, Sarah was her usual cheerful self, waving as she watered her roses. "You okay, Rachel?" she called out. "You look like you didn't sleep a wink." I forced a smile, mentioning the storm, but didn't bring up the noises. Her eyes lingered on me a moment too long, and I wondered if she knew I'd been at her house. Over the next few days, I started paying closer attention. Sarah's routine was flawless: bookstore by 9 a.m., lunch at the diner, home by 6 p.m. But I noticed she'd disappear into her house for hours at night, and sometimes her attic windows glowed faintly, as if a light was on behind heavy curtains. My curiosity grew into an obsession. I started keeping a journal, noting every odd detail: the way Sarah avoided questions about her past, the late-night deliveries to her house from unmarked vans, the way she changed the subject whenever I mentioned the attic. I told myself I was being paranoid. Sarah was my best friend, not some criminal mastermind. But the tapping sounds haunted me, and I couldn't let it go. One evening, Sarah invited me over for dinner. As we sipped wine in her cozy kitchen, I casually asked about her attic. "Ever think about turning it into a guest room? It's such a big space." Her smile faltered for a split second. "Oh, it's a mess up there," she said, stirring her pasta. "Old junk from Mark's family. I can't bring myself to sort through it." Her answer was smooth, but her hands trembled slightly as she set down her glass. I changed the topic, but my mind was racing. That night, I decided I had to know what she was hiding. A week later, Sarah announced she was visiting her sister in Boston for the weekend. It was the perfect opportunity. I waited until midnight on Saturday, when the street was quiet and crept to her house with a flashlight and a set of lockpicks I'd bought online. I'd never done anything like this before, but the need to know outweighed my guilt. Sarah's spare key, which she'd given me for emergencies, didn't work on the attic door, so I'd come prepared. Her back door was easy to unlock. The house was silent, the familiar scent of lavender and books calming my nerves. I climbed the narrow staircase to the attic, my heart pounding. The door at the top was locked, but after a few tense minutes, the lockpick worked. I pushed the door open and stepped inside. The attic was nothing like I'd expected. Instead of dusty boxes and cobwebs, it was meticulously organized, like a high-tech office. A long table held 3 computer monitors, their screens dark but humming softly. Shelves were lined with neatly labeled binders, and a corkboard was covered in maps, photographs, and handwritten notes. A safe sat in the corner, its digital keypad glowing faintly. I switched on my flashlight and scanned the room. The photographs on the corkboard caught my eye first, images of people I recognized from Willow Creek. There was Tom, my neighbor at the hardware store, Mrs. Larson, the librarian, walking her dog. Even me, sitting on my porch, unaware I was being watched. My stomach churned as I realized these weren't casual snapshots. They were surveillance photos, taken from a distance. One of the binders was labeled Willow Creek Residence. I opened it and found detailed profiles. Names, addresses, jobs, family members, even medical histories. My own page listed my allergies, my work schedule, and a note about my insomnia. How did Sarah know all this? And why? I moved to the computers, my hands shaking as I powered one on. The screen flickered to life, revealing a login page for a website I'd never heard of, something called The Network. I didn't have the password, but a sticky note on the monitor caught my eye. New shipment arriving 7/15. Confirmed drop point. The date was 2 days away. I was so focused on the screen that I didn't hear the footsteps until they were right behind me. A floorboard creaked, and I spun around, my flashlight beam landing on Sarah's face. She stood in the doorway, her expression unreadable. "Rachel," she said softly, "you shouldn't be here." I stumbled back, my voice trembling. "Sarah, what is this? Why are you spying on everyone?" She stepped closer, her eyes cold. "You don't understand, Rachel. You're in over your head." Before I could respond, she lunged, grabbing my wrist and twisting the flashlight from my hand. I yanked free and bolted for the stairs, but she was faster, blocking my path. "You're not leaving until we talk," she said, her voice eerily calm. I backed against the table, my mind racing for an escape. "Talk about what, Sarah? The fact that you're stalking the entire town? What's the network? What are you involved in?" Her face softened, but it wasn't the Sarah I knew. It was a calculated mask. "I'm protecting Willow Creek," she said. "You have no idea what's out there, Rachel. The world is full of threats, and I'm the only one keeping this town safe." "Safe from what?" I demanded. "You're the one taking secret photos, keeping files on everyone." She sighed, as if I were a child who didn't understand. "Mark didn't die in a car accident," she said. "He was killed because he got too close to the truth. I'm finishing what he started." I didn't know what to believe. Was she delusional? A criminal? Before I could press her further, my phone buzzed in my pocket. I'd forgotten I'd set it to record audio when I entered the house, a precaution in case something went wrong. Sarah didn't notice as I slipped my hand into my pocket and hit send, forwarding the recording to my friend Lisa, who lived across town. "Sarah, let me go," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "We can figure this out together." She shook her head. "You've seen too much. I can't let you leave." The next few minutes were a blur. I grabbed a heavy binder and threw it at her, catching her off guard. I darted past her, down the stairs, and out the back door, running into the night. My phone buzzed again. Lisa had received the recording and was calling the police. I hid in my backyard, watching as patrol cars arrived at Sarah's house. Officers stormed inside, and I heard shouting, then silence. Detective Emily Carter approached me later, her face grim. "We found enough evidence in that attic to put Sarah away for a long time," she said. "You're lucky you got out." The investigation uncovered a chilling truth. Sarah had been running a vigilante operation, using the network to track and expose criminals she believed were hiding in small towns like Willow Creek. She'd started after Mark's death, convinced he'd been murdered by a shadowy group trafficking drugs through rural communities. Her attic was a command center filled with hacked databases, surveillance footage, and plans to neutralize her targets. But Sarah's methods had crossed a line. She'd been blackmailing residents she suspected of crimes, using her files to manipulate them. Some of her targets were guilty, drug dealers and petty criminals, but others were innocent, caught in her paranoid web. She'd been planning a shipment of evidence to expose a supposed trafficking ring, but the police found no proof it existed. Sarah's obsession had spiraled into madness, and she'd been one step away from taking justice into her own hands, violently. The town was stunned. Sarah, the woman who'd organized charity drives and read stories to kids at the bookstore, was a vigilante with a dangerous agenda. Her arrest left Willow Creek divided. Some saw her as a hero, trying to protect the town from unseen threats. Others felt betrayed, their trust in her shattered. I became a pariah to some. You ruined her. Tom spat at me one day. She was trying to keep us safe, but others thanked me, especially those who'd been in her files, unaware they were being watched. Lisa hugged me tightly, tears in her eyes. If you hadn't trusted your gut, who knows how far she would have gone? Sarah's trial was swift. She pleaded guilty to illegal surveillance, blackmail, and assault, claiming she'd done it all to protect Willow Creek. The judge wasn't convinced, sentencing her to 7 years in prison. Her house was sold, the attic stripped bare, but the damage lingered. Willow Creek wasn't the same. Neighbors eyed each other with suspicion, and the bookstore closed, its windows boarded up. Months later, I received a letter from Sarah. Her handwriting was neat, her tone calm. "Rachel, I never meant to hurt you," she wrote. "I thought I was saving this town. Maybe I was wrong, but the threats are still out there. Be careful who you trust." I tore the letter up, but her words stayed with me. Was she delusional, or had she uncovered something real? I'll never know. What I do know is that the woman I called my best friend was a stranger, hiding a secret that could destroy us all. I still live in Willow Creek, but I'm more cautious now. I check my locks twice, keep my curtains drawn, and avoid late-night walks. The town is quieter, the sense of community fractured. But I've learned something vital. Sometimes the people we trust most are the ones hiding the darkest truths. I keep a small camera in my window now, just in case, because in a place like Willow Creek, secrets don't stay buried forever, and I'll be watching when they come to light.